Before moving on to the analysis of Rashi's commentary to the statement that the Korban Olah was to be a Reach Nechorach LaHashem, a slight digression back to Sefer Bereshit in order to understand what was it that Avraham, in his acceptance of what we now refer to as monotheism, was rejecting. Or in other words, what are the fundamental differences between monotheism and polytheism? In the world of polytheism, the deities are often portrayed as complex personages of greater or lesser status with individual skills, needs, desires, and histories, very often paralleling the traits of human beings, but with additional individual powers, abilities, knowledge, and perceptions. Something akin to supermen. The gods of polytheism in many cases stood at the top of the pyramid in a continuum of supernatural beings, spirits, which also included the spirits of the ancestors, demons, and others. And in the days in which Avraham lived, there were a pantheon of deities, each geographical area having their own list of gods. In the Canaanite area, some of the names that we might recognize would be Asherah, Baal, El, Elyon, Moloch, and even the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Similarly, in the Mesopotamian area, birthplace of Avraham, in Egypt, and in later times, the Greeks. This was in stark contrast to monotheism, the conception that the God of the Jews was an absolute one, indivisible, an incomparable being who is the ultimate cause of all existence. Concepts that are embodied in the first 6 words of the Shema. Jewish tradition teaches that the true aspect of God is incomprehensible and unknowable, and it was only a revealed aspect of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in Kabbalistic terms the Memaleh Kol Almin, that brought the universe into existence and interacts with mankind and the world. In a seminal work on Judaism, Rabbi Isidore Epstein writes that monotheistic beliefs existed before Avraham arrived on the scene, but those beliefs had little in common with Avraham's monotheism. Avraham's God was not a nature god, a sky or sun god, was not subservient to nature, nor was he a territorial god restricted to a particular locality or country. The God of Avraham was independent of nature and of any geographical limitations. Furthermore, in stark contrast to the deities of polytheism, Avraham's God was essentially an ethical God to whom the doing of justice and righteousness was of supreme concern. Ancient Greek theology, for example, was based on polytheism. There was a hierarchy of deities where Zeus was the king of the gods, who had a level of control over all others, although he was not omnipotent. Each of the gods ruled over various aspects of the physical world, and at times were in conflict with each other. The gods married, had children, and in some societies, gods also procreated with human partners. Zeus was the sky god, Poseidon ruled over the sea and the earthquakes, Hades projected his power throughout the realms of death and the underworld, Helios controlled the sun, Aphrodite controlled love. Man related to his god or gods through sacrifice. Sacrificial rituals played a major role in forming the relationship between the humans and the divine. According to Homer, the gods were viewed as members of society rather than as external entities, and there was the need to develop social ties between them and man. Throughout the poems of Homer, the use of ritual was prevalent at banquets where meat is served, in times of danger, or before some important endeavor to gain favor of the gods. In summary, polytheism had a hierarchy of deities. The gods were viewed as members of society, albeit at a more advanced level, and the role of sacrifice was to gain the favor of the gods, which man appeased by bringing that which was dear to him. Hence, for example, at its extreme, we have the child sacrifice as part of the worship of Moloch. Avraham's monotheism took a very different path, in which man did not bring gifts in order to appease his gods, but rather the role of sacrifice is embedded in the Kuf Resh Bet Shoresh, a korban, in which a relationship is developed between man and God. And in this context, we will begin to look at the role of korban as a Reach Nichoach LaHashem.